Most people think dislike is obvious. If someone doesn't like you, they assume you'll notice it immediately. Cold responses, direct hostility, clear tension. But in reality, dislike rarely appears that way. In most social environments, workplaces, social groups, professional circles, people almost never show dislike openly. Open hostility creates problems. It creates conflict, it damages reputations, and it breaks social expectations of politeness. So instead, people regulate their behavior. They remain polite. They respond when necessary. They maintain surface-level friendliness. But something subtle changes. Their engagement becomes slightly lower. Their enthusiasm fades. Their responses become shorter. Small shifts in behavior start appearing that are easy to dismiss in isolation. A neutral expression, a slightly delayed response. A conversation that ends quicker than expected. On their own, these signals seem insignificant, but when they repeat, they start forming a pattern. Because when someone secretly dislikes you, their behavior changes in consistent and predictable ways. Not dramatically, but quietly. And once you start recognizing these patterns, you begin noticing something interesting about human interaction. Many social dynamics are not neutral at all. They are quietly shaped by hidden evaluations people made about you long before you realized it. The reason hidden dislike appears this way is psychological. People rarely announce their negative perceptions directly. Instead, those perceptions influence behavior subconsciously. Psychologists often refer to this as behavioral leakage. When someone internally forms a negative perception about another person, that perception slowly begins affecting their behavior, even if they never openly admit it. Their engagement decreases. Their tone becomes slightly flatter. Their patience becomes shorter. And their interest in continuing the interaction quietly declines. This isn't usually intentional. Most people are not consciously thinking, I dislike this person, so I will act differently. Instead, their behavior simply adjusts. Less curiosity, less warmth, less investment in the conversation, which is why hidden dislike is rarely expressed through confrontation. It is expressed through distance. The first subtle sign someone secretly dislikes you is reduced engagement. Not rudeness, not hostility, just less investment in the interaction. When people genuinely enjoy interacting with someone, their attention naturally increases. They ask follow-up questions. They expand on topics. They show interest in continuing the conversation. But when someone secretly dislikes you, the opposite begins to happen. Their responses become shorter. They avoid extending the conversation. They rarely ask additional questions. And if the interaction continues, they keep it purely functional. Work-related, surface level. Nothing personal. Many people dismiss this behavior. They assume the other person is simply tired, busy, or distracted. But when reduced engagement becomes consistent, it often reflects something else entirely. Because interest naturally expands conversations. Dislike quietly shortens them. Another signal appears in how people respond to your ideas or contributions. When people like you, they naturally reinforce you. They nod while you speak. They acknowledge your points. They show small signs of agreement or encouragement. These signals are often subtle, but they create a sense that your presence and contributions are welcomed. When someone secretly dislikes you, those signals begin disappearing. Your comments receive neutral reactions. Your ideas are acknowledged briefly or not at all. Your contributions are met with silence rather than engagement. This isn't open criticism, it's something quieter, the absence of positive reinforcement. And because humans constantly exchange small signals of social approval, the removal of those signals can create an interaction that feels slightly colder, even if nothing negative is ever said. But the most revealing sign usually appears in group environments, because when someone secretly dislikes you, their behavior toward others often remains completely normal. Their humor returns. Their tone becomes warmer. Their engagement increases. They participate actively in conversation, but when the interaction shifts back toward you, something changes. The warmth fades, the enthusiasm drops, the engagement becomes restrained again, and that contrast reveals something important. Dislike is rarely obvious when you observe someone's behavior in isolation. It becomes visible when you compare how they behave with you versus how they behave with everyone else. Once you start noticing that difference, the pattern becomes difficult to ignore. Another behavioral shift appears in body language. When people feel comfortable around someone, their body orientation naturally opens toward the interaction. They maintain eye contact. They lean slightly forward. They position their body toward the person they are speaking with. But when someone secretly dislikes you, subtle distancing behaviors often appear. They angle their body slightly away. Their eye contact becomes shorter. They create small physical gaps during conversation. None of these behaviors are dramatic, but together they form a consistent pattern. Because humans instinctively create distance from people they perceive negatively. And that instinct quietly shapes body language. The final sign is controlled politeness. When someone secretly dislikes you, they often remain perfectly polite. They respond when necessary. They remain respectful. They follow normal social expectations. But their politeness becomes structured, predictable, almost mechanical. There is no humor, no relaxed conversation, no spontaneous curiosity. The interaction stays carefully neutral. This controlled politeness allows someone to maintain social harmony while still limiting emotional engagement, which is why hidden dislike rarely appears as aggression. It appears as restraint. Understanding these signals isn't about becoming suspicious of every interaction. Not every quiet or reserved person dislikes you. Some people are naturally introverted. Some people are simply distracted. The real insight is different. Human interactions are constantly shaped by subtle perceptions people form about each other. Those perceptions influence tone, attention, engagement, and respect, often without either person consciously realizing it, which means the most socially aware people are not the ones trying to control every interaction. They are the ones who understand how perception quietly shapes behavior. Because once you begin recognizing these patterns, social interactions start making far more sense. Not louder, just clearer. If this made you think a little differently, feel free to like the video. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. See you in the next one.